Welcome to the VBSC podcast. I'm your host. My name is Greg Herceg, also known as the Volleyball Strength Coach, and I am here today with Miles Partain for podcast part 2. We did a podcast together back in May of 2026, and we realized there was some stuff that we didn't have a chance to cover. So we've been chatting. We decided to get a part 2 on the books. So really quick, if you want, just for people who didn't do part 1, Miles, if you want to just do a quick intro and kind of get the people updated on your background, what you've been doing lately, and then we can rip into some of the content here.
Yeah. Thanks, Greg, for having me on. I might double post this, but appreciate you hosting. And last time we had a part 1. So to answer your question there, I think we went over, I'm looking at kind of that summary from last time, but we went over muscle versus elastic jumping. I'm very interested in periodization, how you train or plan your training over long periods of time, as opposed to like how do you do one workout or one practice. It's more how do you organize all those workouts over time, especially when you're considering peaking and competition volume. And that was kind of what we talked about. Definitely a few other topics, but those are the main ones that stood out to me. And then lately I just got back from the Rio Brazil Elite 16. That's the last international tournament I'll be playing this year. There might be some more that get added to the calendar though, later that I might play. And then let's see, doing a lot of vertical jump training like we were talking about. That's been paying off. I think like I can jump higher, but even more than that, I can jump higher for longer, which is nice. And then also working on my own like online coaching stuff, similar to you. I'm definitely a few years behind where you are on it, but loving doing that, and like analyzing people's technique is just probably one of my favorite things. I have a story, like a video of me analyzing my dog's running technique on our couch growing up. And I was talking to my dad about it yesterday, but I was like 14 or something when I was doing that. And it's so funny. Like I was analyzing her joint angles and like the speed of them at each frame, and like the length of them and all that. And now I'm doing that for other people in volleyball when I'm like 24, which is just crazy. But it kind of shows the aptitudes you have, like when you're young, kind of can blossom potentially if you can be attentive to what they are. And so that's been really cool. I love analyzing people's technique and all that stuff. And then so that's a lot of time. I'd say I'm like 50% that on my time, and maybe even 60, and then 40% training, which includes like weightlifting and mobility stuff, and then also the skill acquisition with practicing and wall ball and all that good stuff. And then that's mostly it lately, and looking forward to continuing to learn how to do all of those things better. And that's about it. I think actually maybe after our last podcast, I became Orthodox Christian in between that, which is a big personal change. But so that's kind of the update for me.
Nice.
So.
Yeah, you're a big biomechanics guy, and we can kind of see that in like a lot of your content. And I know we wanted to talk about that, like what was it, 8-part hitting breakdown? How many parts was it?
Yeah, it was 6, and then I talked to that pitching coach in Louisiana, and he was like, well, your scapula is a very important part. So I mean, it's now at 7, and I think that's roughly a good like general model for hitting, is a 7-part chain with 7 links in it. And so.
Yeah, you want to run us through that really quick, just to kind of, you don't have to go through every single individual thing. Just kind of give us a breakdown of like what that looked like.
Yeah, I'll show and tell, because pictures say 1,000 words, and then I can get through it faster. But yeah, and that's kind of adapted from baseball, which is a closed chain movement. We're using the ground, and then I'm trying to figure out how that applies to an open chain airborne movement. But to me, it's all 7 of these transfer very well and the same. So the first part is hip drive, which is I think about all 7 parts as like separations. So you'll have joint pairs. There's singles and there's pairs, and so a joint pair is your hip and shoulder as the first one. Then it's kind of hip, shoulder, scap, and then it goes sort of your scap, and then scap, shoulder, and then shoulder, elbow, and then elbow, hand, and those are the pairs. There's 3 separations with hip to shoulder, scap. There's kind of, I don't know if I'd call it a separation, but one scapular movement, and then there's graduating up the chain, there's shoulder, elbow, and then elbow, hand. So there's kind of like 3 joint pairs, sort of 4 depending on how you look at it. And so the first 3 are hip shoulder separation, the most important of which is trunk rotation. To me, that's the foundation for all overhead throwing or spiking power, and it's important to use your glutes to get a lot of hip drive after you jump into the air, making sure you get momentum going towards slightly the meat of the court roughly. And after you can get some of that momentum, and during that, you're trying to disassociate your hip and shoulder in a rotational way, hence the word trunk rotation. So that's part one, is trunk rotation. Part two is trunk extension. And so that's like bending back, and that's huge. So you get some rotation. And then once you're finished with that, you can get into some extension. And the benefit of extension is you can rotate your shoulders on a tilted axis. So this is like a non-tilted, this is tilted. And when you're tilted, you can throw your shoulder up, as opposed to non-tilted. They stay at the same altitude. And so how I've heard people say is you kind of want to get a merry-go-round going with trunk rotation, and then you tilt back so you can get a Ferris wheel going with the shoulders. And so it's like a more vertically rotating object. And then the hip drive represents a flatbed truck. So I've heard it's a flatbed truck with a merry-go-round with a Ferris wheel on top of it. And there's a little like graphic on Tread Athletics, is a baseball, great baseball biomechanics channel on Instagram and YouTube. And they have an article with that graphic of like a little cartoon of a truck with a merry-go-round and a Ferris wheel. And so that represents the separations with hip shoulder separation. There's also trunk side flexion. So these are all three: rotation, trunk extension, or side flexion, are all ways to get this shoulder away from this hip. So you kind of maximize those. And then after you're done with that, you move up the pairing to the scapula. The scapula is supposed to like upwardly rotate, especially as it's going overhead. And so the baseball coach was telling me you can have like, this is kind of a 0-degree angle. You want like a 15-degree or like 10-degree angle at max, like horizontal abduction, or like stretching your pec, as opposed to flat. I heard people say flat. He said like this is the most, and it biases the scap into upward rotation slightly, which is nice. And then, man, this is not the way I would coach it. But I'm trying to explain it as quickly as possible.
They can check out your 7-part series for the breakdown as we go after this.
Yeah, and then you'll get into shoulder elbow separation, getting that pec stretch in the pec. Then elbow hand separation is like layback into external rotation, and then you'll finish with pronation from the forearm, which is like thumb down. But a big thing people say is they're like get your elbow up and then extend your tricep. I'm like, that's not how hitting, I think, works. Like your tricep isn't consciously extending that much, in my opinion. It is extending, like your arm is going from a flex to extended state, but it's internal to external rotation is what you can like more consciously, especially the internal part, think about to get that acceleration. And to me, you're throwing your shoulder up, which naturally, once the elbow stops coming forward, it'll just extend through momentum. Similar if you see this hand, and then I stop the forearm and the hand just turns over, or I go like this, stop the elbow, and the arm will just extend. And so that's how I see arm extension, and that's kind of the whole model. Pretty common in baseball to think that way, and it was just fun for me to learn it for myself and then do that series on it. So yeah.
It posed a couple questions for me as far as like arm swing mechanics. I'd love to get your opinion on it. The first one is like I'm a very big advocate of like the side bend. So what we can talk about coiling core, but like seeing people contacting here versus contacting here, right? Where it's like your arm isn't necessarily like directly straight up over your shoulder or over your body, right? Like you are leaning to get that side bend. So you're really contacting kind of here as far as your trunk is
Are you
concerned.
saying that's good or bad to do that?
I think it's good.
Generally.
That's what I wanted your opinion on.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think it's good. Yeah, you want your arm. I've heard that the way Tread Athletics talks about that exact concept is they talk about the shoulder being in the plane of rotation. And yeah, like you're saying, like it's not totally straight. It's a little bit here, but then yeah, to get it up, it's a side tilt. But you can achieve that side tilt through trunk extension, and then you rotate on that tilted axis into the side tilt, as opposed to kind of just staying flat and then just side tilting at the last second. But both work. And yeah, I think if you look at football, baseball, tennis, they're all keeping that arm in the plane of rotation, including like really high velocity indoor jump servers and beach servers. But I have seen you can get a little more, what is this, abduction angle, a little higher abduction if maybe if you're doing shots, but then like high speeds, if you see like Cole Hartkey from the international team. Like he's got, I think, to me, the most beautiful arm swing I've ever seen.
Hmm.
And he's hitting it like totally like you're saying, like a little sidearm plus the tilt um, right out here, and it's just like so effortless. It's like beautiful to watch.
The other
Um,
thing I wanted your opinion on, because I know it's sort of personal preference, it's also position related, which would be like the high elbow snap. So like bending your elbow into like elbow flexion at the top of the movement.
so
And
you'd
whether
hit
it's
it, and then afterwards you'd bend it like that, or
yeah, so it's like almost a result of like pronation, but you'll see some
yeah,
guys have a very exaggerated like elbow
right,
flexion after
yeah.
contact. So I was curious your opinion on that with like what you've been like researching, learning about all these mechanics.
Yeah, I've seen that. Definitely your arm is like quite aggressively internally rotating, pronating on contact, or at least like before it, I think. And so when you're doing that, like it kind of feels natural to continue it and keep doing that. But to me, it's not like, it's definitely a thumb down. Like I think of the thumb's pointing down when you do it. I don't think people are doing that. And so yeah, it's like a continuation of pronation, and you like kind of keep doing it. It can bend, but I think it's a way to kind of like try and get more downward arc on the ball, maybe,
Exactly.
or spin. I know some people like they're not hitting it down at all. It's going up. Like some really good high line shooters in beach, like they hit it and they'll do that, but it's going up. It's going over the block. And
Hmm.
they'll do that quite aggressively, especially this guy Alexander Horst from Austria. Like he's 6 feet, but he'll do a high line over like a 6'10" blocker who jumps well, and he'll do that. And so I can see getting more spin and more downward angle, but I don't think baseball pitchers or tennis players. Actually, tennis players kind of do that, I think. And so
Yeah.
I think they do bend their arm after contact. And so it just depends. If you're really internally rotating hard and pronating and trying to like continue it after contact to make sure you did it, like I think it naturally happens.
Cool.
But it's more of a naturally happening thing based on those rotational. I don't like consciously cueing myself. I don't think it helps other people to consciously cue like tricep extension, or in that case like bicep to bend it back. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I see it primarily. I think one of the biggest areas I've seen it on the indoor side is with middle blockers because you can get more of that downward trajectory. So they're hitting such sharp angles down that like you
Yeah,
will see it more from them. And
we're both
with beach
lefties.
volleyball, yeah, yeah,
We're
with beach
both using
volleyball
our
being a
left hand.
smaller,
It's funny.
everybody's going to be watching this, be like, I can't follow any of this. Uh, and my thought with like beach volleyball being a smaller court, obviously, like there could be some potential advantage, but I don't. I think it's just a personal preference type of thing. I worked on it consciously for a little bit.
What did
I
it
did
do?
like it. I did. I liked it actually. But I don't think I did it enough to get it like super subconscious and stick with muscle memory because I don't do it anymore. Right. This
Yeah,
was probably a year
yeah,
and a half ago.
I like the base of the chain being good, and then the upper part being pretty like loose and whippy. And so the more neurons you put in the upper part, like you need some, but really focusing on that to me is, it can kind of disconnect the chain eventually if you keep doing that. And so I like it for a season, but ultimately I like when it like feels effortless and fluid, and like you're like, whoa, what just happened? Like that wasn't, my arm just kind of hit it, and like I don't know what happened. And it's more of the hips and the shoulder plane of rotation, like funneling that energy into the hand, and the hand is just kind of strategically receiving it as opposed to really manipulating it or increasing it. Um,
Nice.
but yeah, I've thought about it too a lot. I've tried stopping my hand too and like not following through, and they all have different effects on the trajectory of the ball that can be helpful.
Yeah.
Sometimes not.
Yeah, getting back to that, the side bending, the coiling core, that's a big aspect of what I train now. From my stuff I've been doing with David Weck, like learning his type of content, his type of
Oh,
training style.
cool.
And
Is that the foot guy or David Weck?
uh,
Who's David Weck?
David Weck, yeah. So he is infamously known. I don't know if he's known for this, but he invented the Bosu ball like decades ago.
Uh,
And now he's kind of like a biomechanics, like he's an inventor, but he has his own like style of training that has a lot of things. Very
cool.
polarizing person within the field, but
Is
I think a lot of his stuff is good. If you take
is he very into the fascial like system much or anything? Does he
yes and
talk about
no.
that at all?
Yeah. Yeah. So like rope flow, a lot of
Awesome.
that type of stuff, a lot of the landmine stuff, a lot of the kettlebell stuff. He has these
Cool.
propulsors where they're like loaded things for your hand where you're working on like pulsing with your hand to learn how to run. They have vests like that too. And he's really big on like there's a few things, but the coiling core and the head over foot are two like really big biomechanical things that he's into.
Head over
And
non-dominant foot, or like the
so it's
non-weak foot,
actually
or
in the gait cycle when you're walking or running, when you
oh.
step, your head should be over that foot. And
Oh, so does the head look like it's doing that, or do the feet move and the head stays stable and the feet?
both. So
Oh, so they
sprinting, your
both
head is
move
actually
a little,
moving side to side slightly as you're doing
and the
it.
feet are kind of coming in a little bit to meet that head as
Depending,
well.
yeah. And
That's
I've
cool.
noticed that really like if I'm doing a split squat or something like that, I will kind of utilize, instead of just staying straight, coiling over. So coiling is basically you have long side, short side. So it's like I've got this short side, we'll say this is my front foot. I can curl here, I've got the long side here, and now I can feel more balanced because I have my weight primarily on my front foot and I'm getting sort of like that more
Uh,
athletic side bending type of
is there some
stimulus in
rotation he
practice.
talks about as well, or it's more just side bending? Are
Definitely,
you
it's everything.
rotating?
Yeah, everything.
Are you trying to
So
rotate a little into that side bend or rotate the other way?
you can for sure. It depends. Like you want to just make sure you're staying balanced. The whole point is like staying balanced over your base of support, right?
I see.
Um,
So when the bases are constantly switching, which is like how you, unless you were just broad jumping over and over again, then you would need to get onto those bases of support.
Yeah, and I
Makes sense.
really, noticed just learning about the coiling core, just the basis of like long side, short side for hitting. It just happens all the time because you're getting, long side, short side here, and then through contact, it's like switching. Now you've got long
Right.
side, short side here, and like how much it just really applies to everything we do within movement. And I think it's been
Yeah.
just
That's
a
cool.
super effective thing to like implement into a lot of the training.
Did you learn
Um,
his method? Was it like a program or a PDF or something or an ebook, or how did you like digest his style
It's
of training?
all just been through social media at this point. I'm sure I'll go
Oh,
through
nice.
some
I
of
gotta follow him.
his courses and things, but like doing that, I work with my buddy ET Strength. Like I do a lot of his workouts and things like that.
Oh,
So he's
cool.
big on that. Landmine University, like it's all kind of intertwined and like based around that. And so I'm actually
Yeah.
following some of ET's programs. His name's Ed. His programs right now, just because it has a lot of this stuff intertwined into it.
Cool.
But that directly can kind of take us into this conversation of the what we wanted to talk about last time, which is I mentioned like passively training your elastic systems, passively training your tendons, which is like I'll
Yeah.
explain kind of what I meant on that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
a lot of that through like the kettlebell training, the deep tier plyometrics, like I'm happy to dive into that. So
Yeah.
man, probably like
I'd love to hear it.
6 months or so ago, like I've been kind of thinking about elasticity, thinking about fascia, all of these things, how everything is intertwined. And when the way I think about it is like when we are playing sports, we're playing volleyball, we're not actively thinking about using our muscles to move us through space. Obviously, they're working, but there's a lot of very passive things that happen within the system. And I think the whole conversation in my head started from like when we play, we don't jump as high as we can. We don't jump at like maximal height. We jump as high as we can with the least amount of effort. So it's like when you're playing, you're trying to maximize maximum jump height, least amount of effort. That's like really what we're going for because we want to be able to jump high for a long time. And so if it's like maximum amount of jump height, maximum amount of effort, like that's not super sustainable. So it's like what can we do to train the passive qualities of like elasticity so
And
that we
those
can
things operate at a low effort, like low perceived effort, and you can
yeah,
get there more effortlessly. Yeah, that makes they contradict each other, the effort plus the height, but it's nice if they can like contradict as least as possible, which
exactly.
that sounds
So
like you're
like
talking about. That's cool.
an easy example would be like a deep tier like split squat jump, right? So you're like in a split squat position and you're jumping up and down from there. And so deep tier, like you're getting like deep into the movement. And as I was doing it, I was thinking there's essentially two ways you can do it. There's one where you're working on braking and you're braking really hard in the movement and then rebounding a little bit more quickly. And then there's the more like passive way you can do it where you're really leaning into the stretch of the movement and allowing that to recoil you back up into the
Mm.
jump. And
So
so
breaking
it's
is more
like,
conscious, and then would you call it leaning into it, or
yeah, like braking is more like a faster ground contact, more like plyometric in
oh,
the
breaking
traditional
versus
sense
yeah, yeah.
versus like stretching, like the actual
Stretching. Oh,
stretching
breaking
of the
versus stretching.
tissue,
Yeah, that's
right?
interesting. Okay, so when especially that last foot of the jump, the block foot, like you're trying to maybe get that more stretchy vibe into it as opposed to minimal ground contact focus.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like, that's just a good example because you can really get into a pretty deep stretch of like a split squat jump, right? Or you can work on just like hitting you as soon as you hit the ground, you try to rebound as quickly as you can. And they can still both be done at deep joint angles. So it's like training, if you can train, let's say for this example, more of the stretch side of things where you're going through the bigger range of motion, the longer ground contact time, and you're training those aspects of like your elastic system, could that potentially then lead to, the
For lifting
increased
more.
jump height with least amount of effort side of
Yeah.
things? And this is all
I thought
theoretical.
elas
Like,
I thought elasticity was more that lower ground contact time, whereas muscular was more the longer. But you're saying you could train the elasticity sort of, but you got to really make sure you're stretching that whole time as opposed to like static.
yeah, like plyometrics or elasticity in like the traditional sense is like get off the ground as fast as you can, let your tendons, your muscles work isometrically so your tendons can stretch. But I think there's just like way more components to it than that. And maybe it's like going into more of like the fascia training side of things, which I know like people love
Mm.
to debate. But
I'm
like
so curious. You're in the strength training world, but strength trainers, from what I've seen, like they have a visceral emotional reaction to fascia trainers sometimes. And I'm like, whoa, like you're super logic and reasoning, like and all this stuff, logical and reason, like trying to reason through so many things. And then we mentioned the fascia person and they blow up. And I'm like, they're
yeah,
like, it's a scam, don't listen to them. I'm like, what about honestly evaluating their ideas? Because I don't even really know what they are. I'm trying to like ask you because I respect your expertise, but I've had strength trainers be like, it's a scam, never do it. Like it's everything trains the fascia all the time. It's nothing new. And it's like, it's almost like it's threatening their like ego or something, which is a
it's
very
one of my
interesting
favorite
debate because
topics.
it doesn't feel like a
Yeah.
reasoned debate. It's always full of like a lot of emotion from what I've seen. Sometimes it's good debate.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like you get that on both sides of the spectrum, right? So,
Yeah.
we've got the guys who are like fascia only training, like never lift weights. And then there's the very traditional strength conditioning coaches who are like lift
Squat, bench,
weights
deadlift.
heavy,
Yeah.
yeah, and then sprint jump throw. And like that's their fascia training
I'd say
is like the
TSP
sprint
is
jump
more on
throw.
the traditional side, and they have
Very
some of
much
the
so.
highest jumpers. But for yeah, but I love their stuff, and I love to see them honestly evaluate a fascial expert or someone who's gotten some good results, and just honestly evaluate that.
And that's my thing with it too, is like both ends of the spectrum get results in some capacity. So both have aspects of their training that very clearly work. And so my thing has always been for I shouldn't say always for a very long time has been like take the things from everybody that works, which is why I can go through a cycle of doing squat, deadlift, power clean, and then I can go through a cycle of doing landmines, kettlebells, and like quote unquote fascia training, right? Because it's like there's certain aspects of those that like they clearly do work, but I hate that just to for the sake of their brand, people are not able to say it's okay to do both. Like I was listening to a podcast, and I,
Yeah,
I won't name names on this one, but the podcast host basically asked one of these like fascial like these movement people. They're like, well, can't someone like squat and power clean and then also do your stuff and like still get like some of the results? And he said no. Like if you're
I've
not only
I,
doing our stuff.
yeah, I've heard they say there's interfere. I heard one person say like, "Hey, I did this guy's fascial program. It was a second hand, but he was like, it really helped me. But he said I can't do weights during it, at least at the beginning, because it'll create interference with the fascial changes I'm trying to um, implement. But then after those changes are implemented, then I can layer the strength on top of that." I was like, oh, that kind
Mm.
of makes sense. He was saying that the weights will like reorient the fascia in a way where the program's reorientation was like emphasis was contradicting that. But that's interesting that this guy was saying like none, nothing.
Yeah, and like,
I don't.
you know, his
Yeah.
point was, or the host point was like, can you get, you know, maybe not 100% of the results, but 50% of the benefit if you just do both? And the guy said no, which I thought was ridiculous.
Yeah.
But he has to say that, because if he says no, it's okay, you can do both, that completely discredits their brand and their training methodology. So like, and that's what
Yeah,
I
it's tough.
just
If they
don't
built it on that
agree.
foundation, then yeah, they
Yeah,
have to double
exactly.
down or else change the brand.
Just to get back onto that, like, you know, training the passive systems and that type of thing. The other example was like kettlebells, because like you can do kettlebells kind of like, think of a very basic kettlebell swing. You can do it where you're very aggressively driving with your hips and like squeezing your glutes, and you're very intentional about doing the movement, which is good. But you can also do it where you're just allowing the stretch and the movement of itself, like the stretch shortening cycle of the muscles in the fascia, to pull you through the movement. And so, you know, working on training that aspect of it, I'm interested to see if that does have carryover to more of like the effortless athleticism that you would
Yeah,
have from, because if you can swing a 124-pound kettlebell without massively like just like squeezing your glutes and draining you on the muscular side of things, right? You can save energy and you can swing it on more of a passive, like connective tissue side
yeah,
of things. You know, there's probably some good athletic carryover. And I do want to say again, all theoretical, you know what I mean? This is just stuff that I'm
super
messing with,
interesting.
because a
How would
big
you?
job of mine is testing.
Yeah, quickly, how would you set rep that? Like, what do you do twice a week? The passive one, and then once the active, and maybe it'd be like a Monday, Friday passive, or Wednesday active. Then they're all like 3 sets of 10, but like the emphasis is different, and probably the weights are
Yeah.
lighter, right, for the passive one.
Generally, until you can kind of like figure out how to do it. I haven't really gotten that deep into it, because I've gone through of like most everything just done on one or the other. But you will kind of get to a point where it's like, when you're doing things more on like that passive side of things, well, when you start to fatigue, then you will start to get the muscular fatigue from there as well too. So, and the muscle system starts to kick in a little bit more kind of when it needs to. So, like, to be clear, you're always training both. It's more of the
Right.
intention behind
Emphasis.
what you're
Yeah.
doing, just to, you know, see if it has any kind of effect there. Because it's like, again, when you're jumping, you're not like flex my quads, squeeze my glutes, you know, like all this stuff is happening very, very passively, very quickly. And so it's like, are there certain things in the weight room that we can do to kind of increase those qualities?
Yeah. Well, cool. Yeah, maybe there's a way for me to do it in my warm ups. I always feel like the warm ups are nice, and sometimes you have a really long warm up, but that can be a way. Even that baseball coach I met in Louisiana, he starts with his workouts typically begin with like mobility, and then he'll do med ball work, um, and then skill work, and then lifting, and then arm care, and then he's done.
Hmm.
And so, but he'll pattern the body, like he'll open up the body with the range of motion side with the mobility. Then he'll like try and pattern those primary movers with like hip shoulder separation with the med ball throws, like kind of upper body plyos, and then he'll do his skill work. But I wonder if that, I'm thinking of adopting some similar model, and I think your stuff would fit in the med ball throw department. I think, and where you're trying to get the patterning down, and then after you do your skill work, hopefully in that patterning, like in your recent muscle memory, then you do the heavy lifting after that to like, I don't know, what do you think about that as a,
That's typically, yeah, for me, it's like, yeah, like warm up ISOs, and then it'll be in kind of the plyometric or power development side of like a lower body workout, you know,
is that at the
because of
beginning
the X.
usually while they're fresh and like the skill, what do they call it? The skill development is high, or the I don't know, the coding or something. I don't know. I've heard it's better
Yeah.
to do skill stuff when you're fresh more than, and then you can do the
Yes.
heavy slow stuff later.
Exactly. So like, you know, where you would do your power work or your plyometrics early in a workout, you would just do them with the intention of being more like relaxed and, you know, effortless, right?
Yeah.
And just seeing, you know, what you can do kind of from that aspect.
Yeah.
So yeah,
And I
there's
feel like
it's
the most impressive athletic feats, typically, I feel like people are like, wow, I didn't feel like I did anything there, but look at the output. Like even the
mhm.
highest jump, I bet those world record guys, they're like, dang, yeah, that jump when I hit my record, like it was effortless.
Yeah, I
And
can
I feel like that
you
felt
you
that
can
way with
basically
you.
guarantee they're not like thinking about flexing
Yeah.
their glutes or the quads or
Yeah. It's like
they're
interfering
thinking
with
about going
the
fast
health
and
of the
hitting the
muscle.
ground really hard.
Yeah. And
Th-
rhythmic. THP talks a lot about the rhythm, which is kind of what you're talking about too. Like rhythm trumps brute strength a lot of times. Um, yeah.
Agreed. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. Back to the elastic versus muscular jumpers, which we won't talk about. If you want to hear that, we talked about that in part one. So go back a little bit. We talked about that quite a lot. I want to maybe switch to a couple things on the lighter side. You have been talking about creating like a banana ball equivalent for beach
Yeah.
volleyball, and I would love to hear
All
about
talk.
that. I think it's a great idea for anybody who's not in the loop. Like the Savannah Bananas, like this more like entertainment based side of
Yeah.
baseball that they're doing. I think some of the athletic feats that have come out of that are extraordinary, like the
It's so
backflip
fun.
catches in the outfield and like all
Yeah.
that stuff. So yeah, just kind of like run me through your thought process and your ideas for that.
Yeah, I'll pull up my Google Doc on it.
Okay.
It's a crowdsourced Google Doc. It's available on, if you comment like the word guides with an S on my Instagram, it'll send you like a bunch of stuff, including this. But yeah, I'm hoping a banana volleyball, baseball, from what I've seen, it's a great family experience, pretty wholesome. It's fun. But the founder, Jesse Coleman, I think his name is, the guy in the yellow tuxedo, he talks a lot about what's it called? Fan First. And his book is called Fan First. I actually got the book, but did not read any of it yet, but hope to, especially if this materializes. And it's really just about building a fan first experience, asking what they want, which I've tried to do. So on my Instagram, I'd be like, I want banana volleyball to be kind of that fan first element to be in volleyball. So I was like, what rules do you guys want? What do you think? And I got some great input from a lot of different people. And what it's boiling down to, it seems, is a pretty similar model to them. So definitely some modified rules to encourage fun. Um, and like around those rules, the structure of it is also like hopefully more fan first, meaning like the day before, at night, there's like a clinic with every single pro. Um, there's also like a VIP dinner that night. And then the next day, like there's required signings and photos with the fans. I'm thinking before and after, or maybe just after, but it's like required to be part of it. And then social media wise, I think dancing is like a worldwide, you know, timeless form of human movement that people love watching. And it's also, it takes some of the least amount of work to like get something that's worth going viral. Like, it's so easy to learn some of those TikTok dances versus do what we do on the volleyball court. And so I'm like, dang, we all have the capability to do this if you can combine it with volleyball. And so I was thinking, well, there could be a pretty unique scoring system with different points. One of those points could be attributed to whoever wins the dance off at the beginning. So it'd be like an intro dance off between the two teams, and legit, whoever you win, it's like tied to your results. And so I thought that'd be really cool. And the audience votes. It's fan first, so the audience decides, and then just very very audience first with like Instagram responding to all the comments, like fielding suggestions from people for how to make it better. Like the beach volleyball world is full of so much love and support, and funneling that towards like a business objective, I think is huge. There's so much from what I've seen, like frankly complaining about what's wrong with beach volleyball, and there doesn't seem to be a great funnel for solutioning and our solutions. And so I think that would be really cool to just crowdsource every feature of the event. Isn't just there because some owner thought it was good. It's there because Jesse Donovan from Kansas City on July 20th texted them on Instagram to do it, and it's like that's why they're doing it. Like everything's like fan inspired. It's not like assuming what a fan wanted. Like you're literally asking them and crowdsourcing it through Instagram and social media and like email lists and stuff. And so I think that's like a huge component. And then the rule modifications is like basically just getting double points for cool things. So a skyball ace is a double point. If you get a backflip while the ball's on your side, you get a double point. Like if you win that point, and then so you're like taking a risk by doing the black backflip, but if you get it, if you do a double hand like tomahawk kill, like a Thor hammer kill, that's a double point. Kong block with one hand is a double point. If you hit a divot and it bounces 20 feet or higher in the sand, it's a double point. So that's like a more of an accident than anything. But again, it looks cool and therefore it's worth 2 points. And then if you pick up a partner and they get a block, it's a double point. And I'm thinking there's a mix of definitely some kind of 4s and 3s, because that's how you can get the indoor and grass crew involved. And I think you could mix up the environments too. Like NASCAR plays at all sorts of cool, like when I think of NASCAR, even Mario Kart, I think of like a desert, and then you go to a tropical place, and you go to like an urban city, and then you go, you know, into the snow and like just cool environments. And so I think it's not necessarily sand, but I'd like sand to be the main thing. I think that's a cool feature for lifestyle stuff, especially people on the coast. And I want it to be able to represent like beach volleyball competence at some level. But then I think grass would be great, and you'd be able to go to more venues. And I think learning to use, some people were helping me figure this out, and they were like, hey, here's a list of 20 of the top beach volleyball clubs across the country. These are your venues. Don't build a random stadium for 3 days. Use the existing venues, do the clinics at those clubs. Maybe you can get resident pros to agree to like represent a venue and potentially live there ultimately if there's enough money, like a club pro, and really connect to those fans. Like, you should know like 20, 30 people's first names, like at the club you represent, like who play there all the time, like that kind of thing. And it takes work. But being fan first, and if you're not willing to be fan first, you're like, I just want to play. And like, I don't mean to imitate that. Like, but if you just want to play and compete and be your best and then leave, like that's great. That's for the Olympics. That's for international. That's not for banana volleyball. That's for something else. And so, we appreciate the beauty and art you create in the beach volleyball, but we need more beauty and art to be viable. And so we need to be viral on social media, fan first, making them have an awesome time, and engaging a demographic that's beyond legacy beach volleyball fans, which is too small in my opinion to make it a viable sport. And like the banana ball players, they were on the ESPYs. They had a dance like intro to someone speaking on the ESPYs. That's never going to happen for beach volleyball unless we, it actually could. Our shirts are off or whatever, I do want it to have a modest bent, but and a family-friendly event. But we could get to the ESPYs if we have like great dances that include volleyball. It's a super big grassroots sport, potentially bigger than baseball for people after college. And then if you include the girls playing indoor, I mean, it's maybe even bigger than boys baseball. I don't know how many people play boys baseball, but it's huge, just to say that. And it's growing, and it's worldwide. There's anime as well. I'd want it to include some kind of anime focus and just represent the disciplines of beach volleyball. And I would also love if there was like a barbell rack like on the court, just to show like this is important. If you can go like rip like a 200 plus pound clean like before you serve and you get an ace on a jump serve, like you get an extra point. Like just to show that there's so much more to beach volleyball than just the actual sport. There's weightlifting, there's a nutrition element, there's a fitness element, there's a fun element. I think it'd be fun for fans to be able to pay, like they might have to pay a lot, but they can do it, and they can like play on the court for 1 point or 2 points. And maybe there's a pro-am and like really engaging celebrities too. Like we've all seen Steph Curry and LeBron like playing with their daughters or like bumping a basketball. Like who's saying we can't get them out there for a pro-am and like stir up some rivalry between Steph and LeBron and have them play with like Phil Dahlhauser and Chase Buninger or something and like see who wins, like those kinds of things. But the players have to buy into it. I'm pretty sure you need a lower, I don't know if the top tier players would currently buy into this. It's a little bit new and scary to like dance all the time. But similarly to the MLB, you'll have to go into the minor league equivalent to get those players willing. But then as it makes money, which I think is, it's the only thing I believe in that is like, oh, this is viable. Like you could actually make money and provide value to somebody that they would pay for over and over again, have high retention and grow. Otherwise, I'm like, maybe, but I don't want to be involved. Like I'm not going to spend too much of my time and energy into growing something else. But so I'm hoping like if some investor is like, hey, this is super viable. I don't know how to operate a league. I don't know how to operate a tournament. Like every single tournament is like its own wedding. Like I don't want to be in the event planning. It's too much, but would love to be one of the faces of it. Like it'd be so cool. And so that's my hope. And then hopefully it can connect like a little bit of indoor too, like I was saying, with 3s and 4s, and make those bigger heavy hitters who are maybe a little less skilled all around valuable. and maybe there's like a fours, a threes, and a twos match, and then the total aggregate results of that plus the dance off is your result for that event and that night. And then yeah, that's the idea.
Cool.
Start small too. Start small. Don't go to
Yeah.
a big stadium. Start small. See if it works.
Yeah. I guess like I'm curious, like where did that all come from? You know what I mean? Is it like volleyball needs something different or just something to make more like to make it even more fun? Like what was the motivation behind like even thinking about that in the first place?
I've actually never watched an entire full banana baseball match, but I love watching their viral social media reels, like, and they're not even related to baseball sometimes. Like the Dominican guy who's trying to
Say the
pronounce like
words.
English
Yeah.
words. Like I think that's hilarious. But they're all wearing like their banana ball costumes, and that's the vibe. I've heard the vibe of the company, like just the way the staff treats each other, the way everyone views it. It's like more of a movement as opposed to a competition, and it still is a competition. They have playoffs, I think. Honestly don't know. But that's the point. Like it's not, you don't need to know who's winning, who's the highest ranked. Like it's still just fun to watch. But there's also that component for those who want it. Like, and there is incentives behind that monetarily for the teams. And I think that seeing those reels and then just thinking like, dang, beach volleyball, like the glory days of it were there in large part. What I've heard is people said those players were characters. You had people ripping their shirt, you had people getting into fights, you had people tearing down the net, you had people getting really drunk, you had people kind of those things, and trash talking way more. And now we have a more polished, westernized, frankly, like nice guy society. We have less of those guys around. They're not probably going to come out of nowhere anymore. And so how do we basically force the character? It's part of the competition. Like it's, you have to post 3 times a week on social media, something you do in your daily routine, or you get fined by the league, or you're like, there's some real consequence, because that's just part of it. You sign a contract, this is your job, these are the things you need to do. If you don't want to do it, just don't be a part of it. It's fine. Like it's no hard feelings, but we need to make sure we're serving the fans and giving them what they want. And so first thing is kind of asking them what they want. And I also think like, who is that fan too? Because legacy beach volleyball fans, who are the most, I'd say, outspoken, there's not that many of them. And I want like the kids and the families who don't really know volleyball, but they just think it's like cool. And then also hopefully the volleyball people, but I'd rather have the kids and families if I had to choose. Diehard beach volleyball fans versus them, there's not enough diehards, sadly. And I want to make money in this sport. I'm good at it. I want it to be a long-term career, but it's not, compared to other options I could do, like real estate, like random construction stuff, learning to invest my money well. Like there's other things I could do with my time that I think have a longer term, like financial potential. But, I love volleyball, but there is a point where I only love it so much, and I want to have a family and a lot of kids kind of thing. And so,
To be viable.
money, but yeah, so.
I want to talk a little bit more about that. Do you need to go? It's 3 p.m. for you.
It's 3. I have a call at 3:30.
Okay.
I'd be done by like 3:15.
Cool. Same for me as well.
Yeah.
So that works perfect.
I know we talked about potentially looking at that. My pitching trip. We could just talk banana volleyball. There's eye dominance, vert training.
Yeah. I think just with that time, I would love, because since we talked last time, like you've really like you had started your business and everything like that, you're coaching and consulting. I like talk about that a little bit, because that has grown a lot since we talked last. And then that'll kind of relay, because I've had some, changes with the business model and stuff lately as well.
Yeah.
And so we can talk about that too. So give us a rundown on like what specifically you do.
Yeah. Yeah, we both do a version of it, which is like online using your body consulting. So like how do you fitness or, health related things, which include like what you're doing with, I think you do like kind of a lot of not only weightlifting, but you're pretty dialed in on the skill acquisition side too, I feel like, but we can talk about that when you talk about your offering. But regardless, I found I worked with THP Strength. They're an online vertical jump training container, and I paid for their thing, and I was like, dang, this really works. Like they're giving me cool programming, but not only that, I can get programming from AI. I can try and guess it myself, but they're giving me the belief and confidence that it's good and that it'll get me the results I want. and that I don't have, and I can be relatively certain about that. And that's what I realized. I'm like, I'm paying for certainty. I'm not really paying for like a PDF of exercises, even though that is materially what I'm getting. But that certainty I feel is huge. It keeps me consistent, it keeps me going. There's accountability in it. I know someone's there on the other end of it. It's not just AI, it's not just me. And so having that at least two-person relationship in my endeavors is like huge for me. I'm realizing like, dang, I need that other person's energy answering my questions, giving me little tips and pointers. Like it really helps fill it with energy and consistency, and ultimately get the result I want. And so thinking about that from my skill set, like I love analyzing technique in volleyball, how you can get your arm swing like 1% better 100 times until it's way better. And learning how to break that into small bite-sized pieces of like exactly the next step you need to take to fix your approach angle, to fix your contact point, to fix your decision making. I love strategy and the game theory of volleyball and the chess game of it. And typically those things become viable after your mechanics are decent. Otherwise, if you're thinking about like chess decision making, but you can't even hit the shots you want, then it's like, so usually it starts with technique analysis. And so I've tried to form that into a business where I'm basically overseeing people's volleyball training, like overseeing their journey. I consider myself like a Sherpa, like guiding someone up, Mount Everest, but like the volleyball mountain version. And so just telling them when to go left, when to go right, when to stop, when to go backwards, across the mediums of like, how can you be technically sufficient? I'm the most, like, I'd say expert in that relative. So much I don't know, but relatively that's the highest. And then like if they really need some strength stuff, I'll try and refer them in the right directions there, or program for them depending on what they want. And then there's also technique analysis, like I said, that happens. Like you can send form checks to me, or little like, here's my hit from today, what's off with that. You can send like how I'm doing it now, unlimited form checks at any point. If you want to put the work to screen record a quick video and ask a specific question, I will put the work to give you a specific answer. And then every 2 weeks is more where I analyze like a full match and give you more of like a game, high level bird's eye view analysis of your game, and like try and benchmark that every 2 weeks, and then limited form checks in between. And it's all housed on Discord, is where I like, it's like a giant group chat of people with different channels. And so that's where I like have people in their one-to-one chats with me, and also the community chats. And then I'll do office hours twice a week right now, and just 1 hour live calls if people want any of their volleyball questions answered. And then trying to learn like the recruiting side of things too, just help people with their volleyball journey, get from A to B, figure out their goals first of all, and then help them get there. Let them know like what I'm expert in, what experience I have. And even with like the nutrition and recovery side, like trying to be a high performance coordinator, which I had with Andy before we went to the Olympics. We hired a high performance coordinator. He oversaw our training. Ultimately, we did not continue working with him because he wasn't a volleyball guy. He came from the MLB world, more or less, kind of lacrosse. But I could see that he was trying to see like, hey, you're hurt. Do you have a good PT? Let me interview them. Let me find one for you in the LA area, even though he lived in the East Coast. And so I'm trying to like vet experts for my clients to work with if they want them to be in person. I know there's a ton of bad strength trainers, a ton of bad PTs, and there's a few good ones. And I want to make sure they work with those good ones, and even coaches too. And so vetting experts and then overseeing stuff. And to me, my time is much more valuably used online, remotely. When I'm in person coaching you, quote unquote coaching, I'm shagging, I'm watching, I'm waiting for you to develop a fix to the small cue I just gave. Whereas online, I give you the cue, you come back to me once you've tried it. I give you another cue, you come back to me once you've tried it. And I can give you like way more value per time unit of mine, and you can just get more out of it. Like you can text me 30 times over a month, or have a one hour lesson with me. I'm like, dang, 30 times a month. You toss yourself, you do your own volleyball stuff. Just send me the video and I'll look over it. And so I love that model. I feel like I'm using my talents, but like the systems and automation that you have such a good job with, plus your expertise in it, like I'm trying to get to your level of it. I know you've been doing it for so long, and I would love to hear, like you said, like what your tiers are, how you do it. We've talked about it, I know, but just for the podcast, like how you would explain it to other people. And because I think like from someone working with you, like they're learning high level strength training, high level biomechanics stuff, and then regardless, if you work with a coach, you get that certainty and accountability that you cannot get with AI. Like you can try and do it yourself, and that's why people have free offers and lower tier things. But ultimately, the people really getting the results with speed, to me, from what I've seen, including the things that I have purchased, I'm like, dang, when I know there's a human over there, like I'm more likely to do it. And especially when I paid for it too. So I've tried to like help out my friends for free, and I'm like, dang, they don't really care about this.
Hmm.
Like they're not in enough pain, or they didn't pay for it to care. And so it's just interesting, like how the whole business thing works. But yeah, that's kind of the spiel, I
Yeah.
guess.
No, that's
I
great.
will
That,
say
that
if
honestly
there's
like sounds
anyone,
awesome.
the last thing is if you're ever interested, just DM me on Instagram. I reply to all my DMs. I think there's currently a link in my bio for that, but again, I reply to all my DMs right now. Like I don't have enough volume to need to like hire anyone or tell people I can't. So yeah.
Cool. Yeah, that sounds great. Like just guiding people through this journey of someone who's played
Yeah,
at
it's a
literally
complex
the highest
landscape.
level.
Yeah, it's a complex landscape. It's like a 10-dimensional landscape, and you need to like the world is 3D and volleyball is like 10D. Like there's like strength training, health, recovery, nutrition, technique with each skill, recruiting potentially if you're a junior. Like there's a lot of PT, like in person, online, studying, film, recruit, like scouting other people. Like there's a lot of like little things, and you're like it's hard to figure out how to put it all together into a cohesive like picture.
For
Um,
sure.
yeah,
Cool. Yeah. So just to your point with because I've changed a couple things around
yeah. I'd love
business
to hear
model
how
wise
you do.
since since we talked. And at this point, like I'm working on building out the community. So for a while I had this like the it was the VBSC membership where in Trainerize you get access to like the different programs, and it's like there's no real coaching. You can send me a DMs. There's a community group that nobody ever posted in. And I
That
wanted
Trainerize
to.
community group.
Yeah. It's just like
Yeah, I've heard of
it
it.
was just like a single thread. Like there's no like it was just
Yeah.
whatever. And so I finally, after 2 years of wanting to do it, started a school community that we sort of
Nice.
moved all of the community
Yeah,
communication
I'm in it.
education
I'm in it
side to
now.
that. Oh, you are great.
I'm in the
Um,
school community. Yeah.
yeah, in that, so the workouts are still in Trainerize, but then all of the community communication education exists within school. So I
Awesome.
was basically learning from some of the owners of school and top creators in there how to like create a good community within that. And it's been a lot of fun where it's like we built like this really high level thing with one-on-one elite coaching and found like essentially all of the most important things that people want, like the programming, the film review, the access to a coach, all that type of stuff. And it's like, okay, now we know what people want at the highest level. How do we like take the most important things and put it at something that's like more accessible for a lot more people? And so, while we're obviously still doing one-on-one coaching, like I'm just putting a little bit more emphasis on the school community right now, just because we can help more people at a specific level. And then, of course, if people want more help, you join the community, you want some one-on-one coaching, obviously we can help you with
Yeah,
that
it's a
too.
great way to get
But
them in into the door and see what value like you can provide. And I think you would more often than not prove that because people's fitness is worth so much. If you can be strong and healthy, not even for volleyball, and then also for volleyball, like I am like I understand the hesitancy with paying someone online for something. Like it always kind of you're like, is this a scam? But like it works. Like I've noticed it just works really well. And you can get high quality information from anywhere in the world, um, as opposed to like whoever's in your local community.
yeah,
And
so that's been a lot of fun, been building that out. I created like because there's a whole classroom aspect, just like a step-by-step guide on like how to be successful. So it's like literally in there, step one, step two, step three, up to step six, and then just a lot of basic information, like a lot of the stuff that we talked about, videos on why we do eccentrics and isometrics and complex training, stuff on nutrition, a bunch of like links and resources to some of my favorite stuff, or like the no strips that I use. Like I should probably add that in there. And then we also do like a weekly call. So I'm going to do it pretty much right after this, where like if anybody wants to come to a group call during the week, they can come on that. And then I'm very responsive in the community right now. I'm just working on like building the interaction. We have just over 100 people in there, but building the engagement and building more of that community aspect of things instead of like you just go and do some exercises, right? Get people to get to know each other, get people responding to each other's posts. Because volleyball is a great community in itself, So if we can
Yeah.
take that, it's like all of these people are like volleyball players working towards the same thing, using the weight room to just improve their lives. Like I just want to make that like a really big, cool thing that exists and a resource that people have access to where they can still like come and talk to me and hang out with me. Um, yeah, it's been fun. So, kind of like just building out that kind of quality as well. So,
That's awesome. Yeah,
um,
I'm excited to. I just looked at some of the links and all that. Like I just got on it, but yeah, it looks really cool.
yeah, we're gonna have to get you in there to do a
You're
presentation
explaining your
for
format.
us. Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah, it's pretty
exactly.
cool.
Step by
Um,
step. So cool.
yeah.
I know we're about out of time, so let's just finish up. Socials, like where people can find you.
At Miles Partain, Instagram, TikTok, at Miles J Partain on YouTube. I don't know who has the at Miles Partain right now, but yeah, and that's I have an email list which you can join. I think on my link in bio, and then the application for coaching stuff um, is also in the link in bio, and that's pretty much it. And then I respond to my DMs on Instagram. So yeah.
Very cool. For me, it's Instagram is the Volleyball Strength Coach, YouTube is the Volleyball Strength Coach, and then TikTok is VB Strength Coach because my normal handle wouldn't fit. And yeah, if you guys are interested in working with Miles, send him a DM. If you want to get access to my new community, it's called Volleyball Workouts. I made it very SEO friendly. Link is in my bio for that. It'll also be in the show notes and the description for this for all of those socials. So feel free to check that out. And we appreciate you guys being here. Miles, I appreciate you getting back on, making some time for me
Thank
and
you,
your
Greg.
world traveling schedule here. And maybe we got part 3 coming down the line.
Definitely, yeah.
Awesome. Appreciate you. And we will talk pretty soon.
Yeah, thanks, Greg. Appreciate it. Have a good office hours and or group call. See ya.
See ya.